In the February 2023 Lancaster County Planning Commission meeting. We've got all commission members here. Thank you guys for last month for filling in. Did everyone receive their packets in time to review last minute's meetings?
Yes, sir.
Any changes noted?
Yeah, it was over.
Is acceptable? Good. Like to pass?
Excellent job
As always, I like
under
to.
trying circumstances.
Yeah, no doubt. It was a fun read. I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes as, the January minutes as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We had no public hearings this month, and 2 consideration items and 1 discussion items. So the first consideration item is update to the capital improvement budget. I can't believe we're back to this already again. So, Mr. Gill.
But it should be a much easier go this
Saw that.
year
Yeah, thank you.
than prior years. And I can't ever get the display right to extend on the screen, so. Should it say duplicate or extend? Anyway, while Glenn is getting that up, you know, you do this every year. You hold a meeting in February to review, get the initial presentation of the capital improvement requests. Then you'll hold a public hearing at your March meeting. I'll do like I've done in the past. I'll send around an email with the items listed, and you all can prioritize them in between the 2 meetings and get that back to me so that when you hold your public hearing in March, they'll be listed in the order that the majority of you place them in. It's required by Code of Virginia for the Planning Commission to prepare a capital improvement budget and forward to the Board of Supervisors. Lancaster's rules for a capital improvement item is it has to be at least $10,000. It has to have a minimum useful life expectancy of 5 years. The department heads who have requested funding this year were asked to attend, and I believe everyone who requested funding in FY24 is here tonight. There's also some requests for outer years. Of course, FY24 is the most important for you to consider because the outer years will be considered again as we move forward. Glenn, can I put this up on the screen now? Let me see. Anyway, there were 11 items in FY24 and 2 carryover items from FY23. The new middle school, high school complex that's already been pre-approved, and in FY24, there's $24 million budgeted in FY24 for that item. Also, $28 million in FY25 for that item. Also, the board, the funding's already been secured for that as well. Also, the board borrowed $5 million last fall for various capital improvement items. The language was broad enough so that it didn't tie us to any specific capital improvement items. You know, we approved a $3.2 million radio project last year, and we have several public access projects in the works right now that will require funding. So if whichever one requires funding first is the ones where we'll start using that $5 million from. So, oh, there you go. All right, let me see. Just right there. All right, there we go, finally. I highlighted the new school project and the public access sites down at the bottom. You'll see here in yellow, and the little asterisk means these have previously been approved and funding has been secured. So all you really need to consider is these 11 items listed in FY24, and that's really all I have to say. I provided you all the documentation that was provided to me, and I'll answer any other questions if you have it. If not, you can let the various representatives explain their requests.
Thank you,
Can I
Mr.
ask
Gill.
one quick question? Can I ask one quick
Yes,
question?
sir.
Before you get started?
Mhm.
I can only see maybe two items. But is there anything on here that's state mandated we have to do?
The P25 digital upgrade is a federal mandate that has to be done by 2025.
And then how about the 9/11 call handling? Is that down at the bottom?
Yeah, I mean, if that's, and Glenn will speak to that, but that runs every software configuration, AS400, that we use for tax collections, right now, building permits, although we're switching to a different software for that, and add to it, Glenn.
Well, he was actually, I believe he was actually talking about the 911.
Oh,
call
yeah, that's right.
handling
I was
equipment.
talking about the Bright System server replacement,
Yeah.
sorry.
Basically, the current vendor has informed us that the current equipment is going to be, out of service, at some point in fiscal year 2025.
Okay.
And what we're looking at there is the equipment that processes all of the calls, the 911 calls that come in and integrates it with the CAD system and the mapping system. So it, as far as 911 system is concerned, that's about the most mission-critical piece of equipment that we have. So,
I thought maybe, that's what I was curious about. I thought maybe it was something that had to be
yeah.
done. Thank you.
So just to clarify, Mr. Gill, we're going to be doing the same thing we've done, where you will send out a list via email to each of the commission members. We will rate them, send them back before next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll give you a prioritized list based on, the average of what you all think, and give you a good starting point for the public hearing.
It's worked well.
Mhm.
So we have first responders in attendance, one of which has requested to go first, humbly requested to go first.
They have,
He's quick on the trigger. Does anybody else have any questions for Don before we bring up Mr. Haywood?
I guess I have a big question that maybe now is a good time. So as I was looking through all the requests, there were several things that made me question whether it was appropriate that they be on the capital improvement plan. Because they're not individually $10,000. Items were lumped together to buy multiple of something to make it fit the requirement. I think that we had one of these last year. I think there's several this year. And I'm concerned that it doesn't belong in this budget. I'm not saying that things aren't necessary, but if the rule is it is a minimum of $10,000, it's not if you put 5 or 10 things together, it's a minimum of $10,000. Like, we could all do that. So I just want to mention that, bring it up, and I think that it's something that we need to talk about, because I think I brought it up last year and we just kind of let it fly by, but I'm not sure why those things aren't in their budgets instead of in the capital improvement budget.
well, that's a good a good point. The thing that comes to mind right away is the tasers, and, it's multiple tasers, but they're all tasers. So, and of course, Lieutenant Haywood can address that.
There were computers, and it was multiple computers.
Right, yeah.
I think there might have been one more thing on here as well.
Yeah, and I mean, historically, if it's multiple of the same thing, then I've put it on here. But if you were trying to say computers and say furniture, then to me, then you're crossing the line and trying to lump stuff together to get to that 10,000. But if it was multiple of the same item, I've typically put that on here.
So how would it be different? Like, the school system doesn't lump their computers together and ask for computers in the capital improvement budget.
These are laptops that are going in the police vehicles.
Right.
And they're something like a Tough Book, I think. And again, Lieutenant Haywood can speak to that. But these are all identical that will be going in the actual police patrol cars. So again, multiple of the same item, and that's just the way it's always been done. I mean, we can, if you all want to change, we can talk about that. But
I just wonder if it fits the definition. I'm not saying we don't need them,
yeah.
but I'm just not sure if this is the appropriate place.
Good point. I can't answer that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, multiple of the same item has always been put in, and, you know, many of them approved that way.
We'll
So,
look at it that way as well.
You know, I never really thought about that. I'm just trying to sit here and think then, when she said, if they added it to their budget.
yeah, yeah, I mean, it's either or, either the general operating budget or the capital improvement budget.
Thanks for bringing it up again.
I think it's worth thought. Thank you.
All right, good evening. Lieutenant Haywood with Lancaster Sheriff's Office. Ms. Booth, to address what you were saying, that was a way that we, instead of the sheriff's budget going from here to here, and, you know, kind of being a seesaw type thing, there's certain things that we add to the budget each year, like this year, inflation of different things, equipment of things, new items we need. And I'll get to these and the computers here in a second. The first thing that I had on my list was the patrol car, the Ford Explorer. We've had good success with the Ford Explorers. We always come and put these on the capital improvement budget to keep, sort of like the school buses, to keep a rotation, so that the older vehicles, we don't have as many maintenance problems, those type of things. We have had a few recalls on the Fords, but that seems like to be with every vehicle nowadays.
Is that system working better for you?
Yeah.
Like with the school buses?
Yep,
Not running as much problems and such?
exactly. Yep, if we keep them in a rotation and that kind of thing, we just don't run into the maintenance problems that cost us in the long run.
I mean, I know it's not my money, but that doesn't seem like a bad amount for a new car these days.
No, and that's actually fully equipped with lights and everything.
Yeah.
And we do get those on the state bid.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's interesting.
Yep, so, the next item is the tasers. Give you a little bit of brief history. We had some tasers years ago, back in, when I just became a jail officer back in 2005 or 6. We got them. A lot of the people that were certified in them have moved on. You have to be certified to use these. So we just never started thinking about them until everything came up with all this police reform and different things. It gives the officer a different option, a non-lethal option, if you're in a confrontation with somebody. And rather than you reaching here, you can reach here, tell that person that they need to stop. If they're running away from you or they're getting ready to confront you in a dangerous situation, you can deploy these tasers and it will take them to the ground. And you can handle that situation. The person is not harmed other than the actual first shock that goes to them, but it subdues them long enough for us to be able to take them into custody. So it's not doing harm to the officer, and plus it's a non-lethal option for a suspect that we're trying to take down that's being uncooperative.
And the sheriff's department doesn't have these currently?
We have 2 or 3 that are in operation right now that still have officers that are trained.
What's the life expectancy on them? I mean, they last forever? or-
The ones we've got now are 2005. So, yeah, they, of course, you know, there's upgrades to everything. We were able to purchase some the early part of last year. These are those right here. They were offering a plan where you could pay so much a year, and the sheriff had added that to his budget. But there's other officers out there, and I'll let you look at this. It's not gonna go off. There's no battery in it.
We want a demo.
Yeah,
Steve would come forward. Yeah, Steve would come forward.
The movie The Hangover comes to mind.
For the record, I am certified in using that.
Yeah, we use one before. But you can take a look at it. We can either dry stun someone, like one or two of them putting it on their arm by using this, or you can pull the trigger
Is that one that can shoot multiple times?
Yes.
Now, that one is the 7.
Okay.
The one that we're asking for is the 10, which is their newest model. You can actually deploy 10 projectiles out of that one. It's like shooting a gun. You shoot one comes out. And a lot of times, we've had instances with mental patients, or people that are hyped up on certain type of drugs. We've had to tase them multiple times because of either the mental instability or whatever drug they're on. The first one just doesn't take them down. The other nice part about these and the new ones that we're asking for, the battery is part of the computer. When you put it in the Docker station, after you've shot the projectile, you can put it in there and it'll tell you everything, how long you tased a person, what you did, the whole works. And that can be emailed to the Commonwealth along with the footage from the body camera. So it really will help him, and he's all excited about these things. It really will help us in prosecuting cases where an officer could have been assaulted or there could have been, somebody really hurt. So any more questions about the
So-
Tanker situation?
But this would allow every deputy to
That
carry
is
one?
going to allow every deputy to have one, plus the jail to have one. Because there have been situations, I'm right now the only one in the jail that's certified to use it. In the last 2 years, I've had to use it twice over there.
So this grant, this does the training as well?
Yes, and the training is provided. It's a program. When you purchase these, they provide the batteries, the projectiles, extra projectiles, those type of things that go with it. And it sounds like a lot, but for the price and what you're getting and how this can be used and benefit the sheriff's office and the Commonwealth, it's a good price. It's a good deal. And like I said, Bill there, he works with Kilmarnock, and they have them. And I think he can attest to how nice they are. Next thing is our Panasonic Toughbook laptops. The laptops we have now, most of them were purchased in 2016. We bought our new software, left Soma because we were having problems with them, and went to Central Square. We had the capability of the MDTs, the mobile laptops with Soma. The officers have become dependent on them. It's another tool that they depend on and like. Instead of having to use the GPS and different things, it'll send the address and the call is up there. Any notes that the dispatcher puts in, they see them without having to ask questions back. If there's something, say you get there and we've had problems there at the pass, the subject had a weapon or whatever, the dispatcher can type that into the call and doesn't have to put it over the air. They can do their reports while they're running radar. It's a lot of different options that they can do with these laptops. And the ones that we have now, we've tried to upgrade them, but as you know, in the computer world, something from 2016 might as well be from 1950. So they just run slow. We've had problems with them. We've sent them back. We've had our IT people, Advanced Networks in Charlottesville, come down and try to work on it. And advanced it somewhat, but for these guys to get and the reason we go with these Toughbook laptops, and the state police uses these as well, they're durable if you drop them or they're in a car situation where you use them all the time. They're not susceptible to break as, say, what Don has here on his desk. They're built for tough wear, for what the sheriff's office does. Our investigators can take them, use them on a crime scene, talk back and forth to the sheriff's office. They have a evidence collection module that's in the new software that we have. They can go on there and enter all the evidence in there on the scene. So having those and have them work properly would be very efficient for us. Right now, it's kind of a hindrance with them not working slowly or not properly. So that's why we were asking for this, to get our fleet up to date as soon as possible with these new computers.
Circling back on that, I remember, my memory serves it correctly, the sheriff's office wanted to switch to the Explorers because it gave the officers more room to work, because they're ending up using those vehicles as offices, basically.
Sure, exactly, because, all right, say this is your seat here, there's a laptop stand right here, and it's pointing towards the officer, and he keeps his laptop mounted right here. So when he's going down the road, he can look at what the call says, or look at what information was typed into it. He can mark on the scene from the computer. He can do a traffic stop, and they can send him the information on the computer about the car, the person. And it works great if the person's wanted. You don't want to be on your radio getting the information back and find that that person is wanted for murder or, house and, breaking and entering or whatever, because it's an officer safety issue. So if they're in their car running this person, they get that information over their computer, the suspect doesn't hear that. So they're much more prepared to go and apprehend him. So it's a lot of good benefits to having these laptops in the cars.
And it's just a lot more paperwork, let's be honest, being an officer.
Well, they always said years ago that computers were gonna do away with paperwork. I've got a stack that I differ. But yeah, it gives them more mobility. They don't have to come back to the office to write reports and do things. They can do these on these laptops and have more time on the road to be patrolling or running radar. The other things are just HVAC units, which again, that's sort of like the cars. HVAC units over the jail through the years, we try to cycle them out so we don't have a problem where they go down. When they go down, especially in the wintertime, we'd have to move people out of one block into another one, depending on crowding. It could run into some problems. You have to keep away people and those kind of things. And one unit runs 2 blocks. So you could look as moving as much as 10 people at one time to another cell. So that's what I've got. Oh, yeah, that was everything. Okay. Any further questions?
Mr. Hayward, are these
Yes.
4 things in the order that you would, a priority for you?
Yes, I would say so, yes.
Okay, thank
Yep,
you.
absolutely.
about how they are on the screen?
How they are on his sheet?
Okay.
Yep, yep.
Because I don't know if they're in the same order as on his sheet as what's up here.
Oh, I didn't look either.
Yeah, I had the car, let me look back at it myself. The car, the tasers, the laptop, and the HVAC.
They're
Was
not in the
it,
same
what,
order.
was, okay.
It is
All
the
right.
same order?
No,
No.
it's not.
Okay, I apologize.
No, it's fine.
Okay. But yeah, that's the order I'm looking for, so. All right, for no further questions, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Officer Haywood. Who do we have next? Matt, do you have to go out? John?
John is standing up.
So we ought to keep a little note of, so they can rotate each year.
Jeffrey, you can stay for the rest of the meeting.
This is a 2-year bus year. State contract prices in November when we started putting this together was around 118. That went out for bid in January. I'm still waiting on that to come back. I'm sure it's going to go up just like anything else to some degree. So I should have firm numbers on that by the March meeting.
And this system has worked well for the school system?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're staying ahead. We have had minimal breakdowns out of county. And with our sports teams having to travel, we go a lot to Hampton, things like that with some of our track events.
Northampton.
And wrestling goes all over the place. But any place we go, it's an hour except Northumberland.
Yeah, but the school's happy with the system that's working with.
So,
the
but
rotation.
it's working great, and we're not
So I
down
noticed
because,
You were talking about the prices, but the prices, they seem to pretty much be the same as they were every year, roughly that same amount.
they've gone up a little bit
But not
over the
much.
years, but I'm not sure about this coming year. I have not got that back from them yet, but
How many buses do you maintain in service?
27,
So you'll buy 1 or 2, or do you retire 1 or 2?
Correct.
At the same year?
Correct. If two come in, two will go out. That's correct.
So the 22, what's the average age? I mean, how long do you keep a bus, I guess?
I try to have it in spare status by its 15-year point.
15.
That's what DOE recommends. And I try to keep everything under the 15-year point is what our normal routes. And typically, our newest bus will be our travel bus, because who knows where it's going to go, Salem, with some of our sports teams. So I try to keep a new one, and that way I don't get woke up in the middle of the night and end up going somewhere.
Yeah. Nobody wants that.
The other is the security grant. With last year's, we were able to get card swipes for the middle school / elementary school classrooms, so that with a button, I can lock down every single classroom in the building. I'm not depending on whether a teacher locked her door or not, I can lock it. It can get locked, period. So from a security aspect, and then we got a bunch of radios. So that's what we got last year with our money. This year, if it comes around, we'll review the list, what our options are, and then go from there. But this is just our contribution to up to $250,000 grant. That's it.
Have you found out about last year's security grant yet?
That's the one that we got the locks with.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep, unfortunately, we have to worry about that still.
Yeah.
We'll never- That's it.
That's it. We're plugging along.
You guys have any questions? Thank you again.
Thanks.
Anybody?
You might have to call them.
Don't want the money back.
I just got the summary.
Did you make it any smaller? I'm just curious.
I tried. I
Okay.
messed with that file for a long time.
That's what I was thinking too.
What the hell? Read that.
Best quality I got.
That's what I was thinking too.
Holy moly.
I'll never be able to see that without my glasses on. I'll tell you that.
It doesn't help.
That's not intended to be.
That's what you call fine print.
Yeah. Is there a disclaimer notice somewhere on here? Yeah, listen.
I think what Matt's gonna talk about is inside the table, so maybe we can see that.
So the original system design is still in progress as far as the flow path. I'll start with the radio system upgrade. So this is just an addition to the equipment and the system from last year's proposal. We weren't able to have the joining fee and the backhaul during last year's cycle. So we got that backhaul finalized towards the end of July last year. And also with the addition of Richmond County to the regional system, the microwave backhaul path is going to change. So what this system is
Let
if
me
you
interrupt here for just a minute.
Yeah.
I have no idea in the world what a microwave backhaul
I was just
information system is.
gonna bring that up. So with the radio system, if you ever seen a tower, they look like the dinner plates on the tower. So that's the microwave communication dish. So what this system does is it connects all of the sites and gets the voice and data back to the core of the system, which is housed in King and Queen in Essex County. So the system provides a pathway between all the tower sites, and with the regional system, it's linked with the entire system, keeping the other counties in mind also. So for the project, this would be all the equipment for it, and the installation of the equipment along with the placement in our tower sheds and the rack.
Where is this on the list here?
The
P
top,
Yeah, P25 digital radio upgrade, 1 million.
Okay, thank you.
so the second part of that project is the actual regional system joining fee. It's $20,000 per site, and right now we're at 4 sites. So that fee is $80,000, and then the market value fluctuation, they recommended 15 to 20% increase, which the recommended budget by the engineers was at 1 million.
This would be in addition to the 3.2 that was approved last year as part of this federally mandated project.
That was my next question. Is this mandated?
It's mandated. And we're joining a regional system that Northumberland, Richmond County, who else is on, Matt?
King and Queen, Essex, and Matthews.
Okay.
So at this point in time, it's us, Northumberland, and Richmond County trying to move forward together.
Yeah.
So right now, the final system plan is still under review and designed by the engineers, but they are about close to being completed.
So it has to be done by next year, right?
Million plus.
The project
yeah,
itself, we
It would
probably
be added
won't
to the
see,
3.2.
we probably won't see the final system until 2026,
Yeah.
25 or 26 at least.
The board approved a contract with Federal Engineering last year. This is the engineering firm that Matt is speaking of that's designing the build-out of this system. And they have to take into consideration, you know, Northumberland and Richmond County as our neighbors to position the towers so that they're, you know, they talk to each other, and you always have contact. You don't lose contact.
Yes.
You know, and like I said, last year, Matt didn't have these 2 components, and I mean, we had a very rough estimate of 3.2 million. The board approved that. The board subsequently approved a contract with Federal Engineering to design this system out. So more pieces are coming together. What is also an unknown is, and Matt, you can talk about this, there may be some grant opportunities as well as we move along on this that I know you will pursue because you're very good at that.
Yes.
So,
May I ask you what our other options are, or are there any other options? Just to clarify.
Yeah.
For what, regards to what?
For this system, I mean, there is no other anything.
The regional system is by far the best option
Yeah.
available.
that decision's already been made. You know, like I said, this is just an add-on because these components, we didn't know, I mean, we didn't have estimates for these components last year.
And the reason why they recommended up to a 20% just fluctuation value, by the time this is actually completed and ordered after July, well, really after, the system has to be completed first. There's no telling what the cost of the equipment at that point is going to be. The market has fluctuated so much. Is there any more questions on that project? The next thing I have is is in addition to the project that we did last year with the ambulance. So the original plan was to repurpose an older cot and retention system to kind of save money. In the past year, there's been a lot of mechanical variations, so we're not going to be able to do that anymore. So the system is required in order to put the truck in service under Title 16 in the Code of Virginia, so we have to have it. The new standard, it's $30,000 for the stretcher and another $30,000 for the cot retention system, and they're both powered. So I can't express how much the powered systems have saved us, especially in regards to injuries and helping to lift some of these people up and get them loaded in the ambulance. I also will pursue the same grant that I got for the ambulance in the fall cycle for this project as well.
Which was about 50% of the cost,
I
right?
got 50% last year, yeah.
Nice. Again, that's another mandate by
Yes.
2016.
Yeah, we have to have it to have the truck in
I think the
service.
state keeps mandating, we still have to pay for it.
They did get grant money for that stuff, though.
Discussion previously.
Wow. Like, yeah. Mandate this, mandate that.
So. The ambulance, our scheduled inspection date is May 24th of '24. So it's taken a long time.
May 24th or what?
2024
24.
is our Florida inspection temporary date. So granted, there's no changes or holdups in the production line. We should be doing the final inspection next year. So they were pretty spot on about the 2.5-year build time. The next item I have for this year is a 2500 truck. I've kind of had that on for a few years, and it came up to it on this year. So with vehicle ordering the way it is right now is very difficult. The best options I've found is going with a Dodge or Chevrolet 2500. It's just a lot more logistically feasible for us to utilize a truck as opposed to the SUV, especially with a lot of the day-to-day logistics operations. And most of our equipment too for storms and everything is in trailers, and the Tahoe is just struggling to get it around. Picking up stuff in Richmond, especially with COVID, I've used my own truck a lot for that. And last year there was a 30% increase of the state contract, bringing the model year 23 to 48,813, but that period has closed. They're not accepting any more purchasing options. Currently, there's nothing available for model year 24 on either truck. So it's just a guess at this point. And then also for the ordering, it's expected to be 2 years out.
Excuse me, you talking about a vehicle now?
Yes.
Is that on here somewhere?
That's the
Yes.
EMS quick response vehicle. The fifth
Oh,
item,
I see.
fifth item down.
Excuse me, I don't mean it harm. I didn't hear too much of what you were saying, and I'm going back now. When you was talking about the P25 digital radio upgrade, can you tell me more about that? What are you talking about? Because I didn't hear any of it, really.
The budget request for this year is for the microwave backhaul, which is data sharing equipment. It's a data sharing system between the tower sites and the dispatch system and the radio system core.
And you need to be connected to different counties?
The regional system connects together, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all I have for this year.
You guys have any questions? How many EMS first response vehicles do we even have? Is it just one?
Two.
Just two?
Right, are you talking about SUVs or altogether?
I guess just the first response, not the ambulances, but just like the,
What the county owns?
yes,
Okay.
the white Tahoe with the red
Yeah.
lights on it, that type of vehicle.
Yeah,
Two.
it's two, yeah,
Two.
2015 and 18.
2015 and 18, okay.
But the 18 already has 120,000 miles on it, so.
The ambulances are owned by the volunteer rescue squads. Now, the county did purchase an ambulance, like 3 years ago?
2019, yeah.
2019 for Upper Lancaster Volunteer Rescue Squad.
Are those trucks giving you issues now, Matt, or? are
The
they
Tahoes are, and the ambulance is starting to now, of course, after the warranty is gone.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, the ambulance is used every day, so 24/7. We don't really have another option to give it a break, so it's used pretty heavily, and if you go look at it, you can definitely tell.
Yeah,
So-
I see it on the road quite often.
If you get the truck, would both Tahoes stay in service, or how would that happen? How would that?
The 2018 is going to definitely have to be replaced next year. That's starting to get heavily worn. We could repurpose it within the county, except for it's got a giant hole in the roof from where the HVAC system is placed. But outside of that, it's not going to be reliable for emergency response. The 2015 is just really, really worn down and limited to space. But that is, it's still suitable as a backup unit. Right now, I use it a lot for when the other truck is in the shop. They're able to swap everything over.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Oh.
I see two more young men out there.
I don't think one of them has any requests.
No?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm asking for in fiscal year '24 to replace the county the 2003 Dodge Ram 3500 county recycling truck. This truck is approximately 20 years old, and its last odometer reading was in the spring of 2022 with 585, 265.
I saw that. That's unbelievable.
And right now, currently, it's estimated to be well over 600,000 miles at this current time. With maintenance issues becoming more frequent and costly to keep the vehicle in service, replacement of this vehicle is needed to continue the day-to-day operations in the recycling process and installing street signage within the county. That's all I have. I'm free to take questions if you have any.
When's the work gonna be done on the recycling facility itself for Irvington Road?
Right now, we are waiting the blueprints from the design group. Once we have those in hand, then we can proceed the bid process.
Yeah. Engineers are drawing the site plan now.
We approved that last year, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So it's taken a year.
yes. They are,
DEQ involved?
all engineers and architects are
Say
extremely
no
busy.
more. Say no more.
Yep.
We ought to get the-
The board approved that contract with Bay Design like last summer.
We need to get whatever that vehicle you've got for the EMS and the sheriff's office. 600,000 miles. I don't think that's gonna lose the county anything. Jesus. And that's used to pull our recyclables around from the,
That is, and it's also used to put up all the street signage within the county.
so if that thing backs up, what happens to our recyclables in the land, it just sits there?
It
No,
just sits there. It's a no-go.
yeah, well, then they take the maintenance truck that Cy Revere drives and
Black- the
use
black
that. No, the other
Oh, the white
F-250.
Ford,
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Any questions regarding 20 review?
Lots of questions about recycling, but not time for it.
Any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is that all of them, Don?
no, the last one is the Bright System server replacement, which is what I was speaking to earlier when Mr. Sorensen asked me the question, and Glenn can pick up on that. But that's the main backbone for every software system that runs in this building. So Glenn can elaborate on that.
I don't know what else I can say. You pretty much explained it. Yeah, my capital improvement request for this year is the IBM server that runs the Bright system. And what we're talking about is the software that the Commissioner of Revenue and the Treasurer use for tax assessments and tax collections, the software that Betty Stevens, the accounts administrator, uses for accounts payable and payroll. At this point, it's still being used for the building permit system. Of course, that's going to change soon, but we have about 25 years of data from all of these different, all these different applications on this system. And the last time that we replaced this particular machine was back in 2017. We've been informed by the company that that services this machine that it's going to be end of life in early 2024. So we're ready to go ahead and replace it.
What's the end of the life for the software itself?
The software itself is, we're not aware of any deadlines at this time. That pertains to both the operating system that runs the server and also the application software that runs all these other applications that I spoke of, payroll and the tax, tax software and accounts payable.
That's an old software that you've had for 25-plus years?
It's 25 years, but they keep it,
They
they
keep
keep it up and, they keep it up and running.
And that's still kind of black screen? green
It's,
screen?
it's like DOS. It looks like
Yeah.
DOS, yeah.
So
That's
when
what a lot of people refer, refer to it as, but, and we've had a lot of people that, they kind of snicker when they, the first time they see it, but it's, it's old, it's archaic, it's, people laugh at it, but it works.
So there's no plan to go off-site
We-
with this to the
Yeah.
web or to the cloud and,
Yeah.
with,
We have, we have discussed that internally a number of times, but, we're still, mostly favoring this, this in-house system.
Yeah, the last time we looked at that, it was, what, like a $350,000 price tag, and that was like 4 or 5 years ago. The problem is, you've got a lot of old dogs in this building, and it's tough to teach old dogs new tricks when it comes to computers. And I'm one of those, but, that's, it's an old system, but it's functional. A lot of counties in the Commonwealth use the Bright system, and they keep it updated. There is a Windows version which our treasurer's office uses, which is a little more appealing to the eye, not as DOS looking, but the last time, like I said, last time we looked at this, it was like a $350,000 price tag, and then you got that learning curve, and we just decided not to do it.
I guess that fair would be that one day you get a letter says no longer supported.
right?
Yeah, then
That's the
we'll,
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
How do you get ahead of that?
yeah.
Well, we're not, nothing has come down down the pipeline that speaks to, end of life on the software itself.
But it requires you to run your own server also.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't have to do if you got upgraded. You wouldn't
Well-
run the servers anymore.
Yeah, there are plenty of solutions out there that, that run, in the cloud. There are solutions out there that will run in-house on hardware that's a lot less expensive than the IBM server. So there's two different options there. The other thing that, that Don, was pointing out about the learning curve, the other thing also is, we have heard in the past, horror stories about the process of data migration. Taking the data that we already have from the platform that we're on right now into a new computing platform.
That would be.
Yeah. The sheriff's office ran into that when they switched from the Soma to Central Square, which extended that transformation.
Any more questions for Mr. Rowe?
I did want to, go kind of circle back, even though it's not a request on, for the coming fiscal year, I did want to circle back to the, to the 911 call handling equipment, since it came up earlier. We do have, a migration going on right now, having to, moving from the 911 system that we have now to something they call next generation 911. This is, this is something that we're doing statewide. And there's been money available for us to migrate our existing system from the, basically what it's doing is it's moving the entire system from the old Verizon public switch telephone network, I guess is what they call it, over to an IP-based, network. And, the migration, does involve quite a bit of state funding. And what they have set aside for us for this, this call handling equipment upgrade is $150,000. The quote that we have for the equipment is in the neighborhood of $211,000. So what we're asking for next year's capital improvement is the difference between what the state will give us and the current price of the system. And once again, it's the nuts and bolts of the 911 system. It's mission critical. Every call that comes in, goes through it, and you can't really run a 911 system without it. And the current system we have is was purchased and installed in 2016. You know, we have this concept in the IT world known as planned obsolescence, and this is one of those things where, you know, it might not be state mandated, but it's going to come a point in time in the near future when we're not going to be able to find replacement parts for anything that, you know, that goes wrong with it. So,
Okay,
anyway, that's all I had to say about that.
thank you very much. I've heard a lot of terms about end of useful life and mandates. It is what it is.
Yeah, I'd like to just add one final thought, Mr. Chairman, back to Mrs. Booth's comments earlier about, you know, grouping things together to get over the 10,000. I think we've missed the boat on changing that this year because the deadline for budget proposals was last Friday. So if folks were cut out of the capital improvement budget, they're going to want to put it in their operating budget, and they've already been submitted. So, you know, if this is something that you think we should do in the future, I would say, you know, we'll look at it in a future year.
That'd be a board decision.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, I made some notes on that,
Yeah.
that we need to have a discussion
Yeah.
on what that's gonna do to our general budget, you know, what, how we.
It's just-
how we
Yeah,
think this-
but I,
Great to point out.
You can
Yeah.
talk,
Remember that last
you
year.
can look at the sheriff budget and you say, well, that would increase that to $90,000,
yeah,
so.
yeah. So I think for this year, we need to carry on like we've gone.
Okay,
But
duly-
I'm glad you brought it up, because I've not thought of it like that.
so we shouldn't look any different, duly noted.
Yeah.
We'll look at it just as it presented to us. Thank you, Tar. What else can we talk about the capital improvement budget? Mr. Gill, is that it for us for tonight?
That's it for tonight. I will, like I said, next week sometime, I'll send an email out, just like I've always, as I've done the past few years, get you all to rank them as you see fit, and then I'll tabulate them and prioritize them in an order for you to consider at your March 16th meeting.
Yeah, and I want to thank all the department heads that came to present the issues and the packets and stuff to help us out. Consideration item number 2. Was not completed last month.
To your dismay.
We saved it for you, didn't want you to be left out.
It looked like it was a very good meeting. I mean, it looked like you had people on both sides and some very good points were brought up. From what I gathered from it, was there was insurance question regarding gathering, and then the days that were allowable. You know, where did we come up with that 180 days? Is that arbitrary number, or what is it? But anything else that I really missed on that?
I think someone spoke about having an attestation of meeting HOA covenants and deed restrictions as part of the ordinance, and I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. And then there was one that you sent out, Tom. I thought there was some nice points brought to that, and I'm sure all the commission members have had a chance to review it.
Real quick, I didn't hear what you said about the HOA, I didn't hear that part.
Adding something to the ordinance requiring the applicant to confirm that their short-term rental adheres to HOA covenants and deed restrictions.
If they're there.
If they're there, if they're there. If they're not there, then it doesn't
But
apply.
the county code would supersede any HOA.
Yeah, I mean,
But they'd have to apply to both.
yes,
Okay,
see,
yeah, okay.
HOA covenants can be more restrictive than county code, but they cannot be less restrictive.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You know, whenever we get new subdivision proposals in, if they have covenants, we ask to see them, but only to review them to make sure that they're not less restrictive than county code. In other words, if we require a 25-foot side yard setback and their covenants say 10 feet, that's not going to work because that's less restrictive than county code. So, but covenants, they could say 35 feet because that's more restrictive. So that's the only reason that we ask to look at subdivision covenants, but that's for new subdivisions. You know, all the older subdivisions that have existing covenants, you know, we're not aware of, you know, without doing the research. So I think having that addition to the ordinance requiring the applicant to, you know, provide confirmation that what they're proposing does conform to HOA covenants if they exist or deed restrictions is a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
Any other staff issues that we need to know of that collectively y'all discussed over the past month?
Well, you know, at last month's meeting, it seemed like it was almost 50-50 right down the middle, those supporting and those against. And, you know, when we first started drafting this, I think the idea was to find some middle ground. And if you think about it, if you've got 50 people favoring it and 50 people opposed to it, that's right down the middle. You may already be there, you know, just thinking about it that way. Mr. Allen, Jeff Allen, who, in his words, he said at last month's meeting that he was a retired and reformed attorney. I don't know exactly what that means, but he did that draft that Mr. Richardson picked up on and highlighted some things that he thought was worthy of further discussion. But I don't know that everybody who was here last month had actually looked at our draft ordinance, because they were talking, some of them were talking about things that we had already addressed in the ordinance. And it was online, so I don't know why people hadn't looked at it, but.
You all have not prepared an updated?
No, because I don't know what you all want at this point. I mean, we can go through it. I know that's why we included your draft, because you thought those yellow highlighted options were worthy of more consideration. So we can go through those and get a majority or consensus, and then we can put a draft together next month for you to look at again.
How quickly did,
180 days is a little excessive though. You know,
Which way?
I think it's, I mean, if you're gonna allow them to have Airbnbs, you can't say, well, for 180 days, you can't rent. I mean, last month, there was a lot of people complaining, but there was some good people that are actually running their Airbnbs right. I think it needs to be, hey, look, 3 strikes, you're out for a year, then you can restart it. Even if, say, you got 3 strikes, right? You say 2 months later, I'm gonna sell my house. Well, the new homeowner still has to take those over 10 months. They can't just take it, just like, say, if you and Terry were married, and she just switched it in her name. Nah. I just think that, say if you got an old house, 6 months is a long time for a house to sit, especially if you can't really be here to live in it and open it up. You know, if you're not causing problems, I don't see why it has to be that much of time on it.
Yeah, the 180 time limit is kind of a compromise. I mean, if we were trying to promote these businesses and do right with them as a business, you know, we'd allow them to rent as many days of the year as they could.
So what's the
What we're trying to do is walk a very narrow path between these things being a business and them being a home and being neighborly.
Well, see, my side of it, I would like to see more houses available to the people in the community. That's my point. But if you're gonna allow it, how can you say, well, you can't rent it for 6 months?
I think that's, one of the debates is it a business?
Well.
And it's not a business
they're
because
making money, though.
it's not,
The way I see it, and I go back to this, I'll talk to you, can we defend 180 days? Can we defend any days? I mean, if it went to court, is it defensible? Now, I just can't see,
I mean, can we
Right.
defend
because
it?
the first thing, we picked 180 days at the end. I mean, there's no data, there's no, nothing, you know, driving us to 180 days. So, I get it, you know, I've been thinking about this, you know, ever since the last meeting. Why did we get into that? And I hear you saying, because we trying to separate business and all that, but I don't think that holds up, because I own this house, and now you telling me I can't rent it for 180 days or 200 days. It don't make sense. I mean, it just don't make sense. I'm gonna jump and say, well, how did you come up with that 200 days? How can you justify that 200 days in a court of law?
How can you justify any setbacks that we have imposed on solar ordinance? What's the justification? Or the side setbacks to houses? I mean, it's because we discuss it and we debate it and we listen to the input and we
And
go
we
through the
think it's
process.
best for
So
the
I mean, I
community.
hear what you're saying,
I
but
just-
how do we justify any ordinance.
Let me ask you something, guys. Are we ever gonna say, all right, 105 Airbnbs is enough, that's it? Is there gonna be a number set of how many you can have?
No, that wasn't, I don't think that was considered. It is in Irvington, it's in some of the towns, but we're not considering that,
No.
but other municipalities have.
We have to keep in
How do you
mind,
justify that? I don't know. How do you
So,
justify-
so I'm gonna pose I guess a statement for a debate. If I'm a homeowner and I own a home and I choose to rent the home yearly, what is the difference if I rent it yearly or if I rent it weekly?
It's just the turn, it's every
The
week.
turnover, yeah.
But I'm still making money off either renting it for a year or renting it weekly.
No, but when you have somebody living next to you that's there for a year or two, long-term rental,
Yeah.
that's part of the neighborhood. It's not a vacationer. It's not somebody's coming just to vacation. Which
But
I'm
it-
all in favor of vacation. I want tourism is a huge part of our industry, of our economy, and it needs to be increased. I think we just need a balance of turning every neighborhood into, some house in every neighborhood into a business, a hotel, where people are just coming and going and coming and going, and have changed the feeling of where people live in a community with neighbors that they know into living next to a business, even though we're not calling it a business.
So you think 180 days does that?
I think probably the better, I think we were trying to balance that and how many times they can rent it per week to a new
Well, I
person.
think we got something in there.
We do,
Yeah.
we do.
We got that in there.
I think maybe that is a better, anyhow, maybe that's the better lever that we use.
Yeah, well, it's currently in there, all short-term rentals shall have no more than 2 rental contracts during any consecutive 7-day period.
Yeah.
So,
And if somebody,
yeah, a lot of people who spoke last month mentioned that they had rented theirs out for 240 days a year.
a couple,
Yeah, a couple, yeah, so,
that seemed to
But
be
that-
like a max.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
How are you going to keep, I'm open to what you just said. I think it should be open. If you're gonna rent it, rent it. But how are you gonna keep it to the 180 in the first place? Half these people, I shouldn't say half these people, a lot of these people aren't even registered. So if they're not registered, how do you know? Personally, I don't care for the short-term rental. I had them on both sides of me. I only have them on one side of me. Fortunately, I've had no problems, but it's their house if they wanna do it.
I think we should
I don't
kind
think
of,
we can, I don't think we should try to limit it. I think we should leave it alone personally.
but I think we should kind of try to find the people that's not paying that much attention to their property and hold them accountable. Because everybody's not just staying away and just collecting money. Some people are actually taking care of their property,
I
got
agree.
cameras in the driveway, they're doing the right thing. So I think we just need to find some way so that the community is not disturbed and bothered by the ones that's not doing what they're supposed to do.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree with that. We heard a lot of people last month. We've had a lot of comments. But, I think most of us sitting in here know that we're talking about, less than 5 homeowners that have been a problem. And there are a lot more than that registered, and there have not been issues. So generally speaking, 90-some% of what's happening is happening appropriately. It's a shame that we have a few rotten eggs.
And I think it should, and you always say you concentrate on those 5 or 6, and you hold them accountable, just like you're saying. You fix that problem. You don't work, try to fix something that's not really a problem for 90% of the people, but you fix that problem. And we got the sheriff department and everybody else that, can home in on those. I think if you brought 2 or 3 of them in and, really put the punishment to them much as we can, then I think that word would get around. And the other 3 or 4 that's messing up will straighten itself up. And maybe there ought to be some method to revoke their, registration or whatever it is.
Well, the only thing we have on the books right now is the short-term rental registry. And, I mean, that does have 3 strikes in it, and you're out. But how do you prove the 3 strikes?
Is that out for good?
And that's where we talked about last month, having a report from law enforcement. And a lot of times, if law enforcement are called, they give a warning, they don't give a report.
Correct.
So,
But you could go for calls for service at that one address.
Yeah.
You could call over and say, how many calls for service and what types have you had at so-and-so address?
we can
Pull it
do
up
that.
That way you get your 3 strikes, but
We could do that. Whether or not we can prove that in court is a different story. This ordinance would give us more capability to hold those people accountable than what we currently have.
And that gets back to why we're here.
That gets back to why we're here.
That's the most important reason why we're here. I mean, I've never seen a perfect ordinance to begin with, but the most important thing to remember is we've been tasked with putting something on the books to let the board see.
Yeah.
And I think we've done a pretty damn good job of it, quite honestly. At least there's something that seems to be a common ground for both sides, like you said earlier, Don.
Yeah.
My understanding was that when we started out on this, the board wanted us to come up with a system where there was a system of permits. And we changed that so that a permit would be required if the owner of the short-term rental didn't reside on the property. If it was a hosted situation, why they wouldn't need to get a permit. But it's been my understanding that all these people would have to apply for a CUP, certificate of use, to run one of these. And there would be a public hearing where the neighbors could object to that being issued, and that would be our primary disciplinary matter. You would make them renew this every 2 or 3 years, and if they hadn't behaved, the neighbors would come and say, you know, you shouldn't reissue this CUP. But I think we have to keep in the back of our mind the economic scale of this thing. I know I've way underestimated it, and maybe you have too. I mean, I talked a lot about the economic impact of people coming here and staying in a waterfront short-term rental, listening to the owner talk about how great it is here, and ending up retiring here with their bank book, their retirement policy, whatever, that effect on the economy. There's also a tremendous effect on the economy from these people buying homes. I live on the waterfront. I've been here 20 years. I think the prices have more than doubled on our waterfront properties in the last 5 years. And I think one of the primary causes are these short-term rentals. People buying them, and the real hooker with the short-term rentals is that a lot of people who have bought these very expensive waterfront homes have done so because when they're not, they're from out of town, a lot of them, probably most of them, and in the times when they're not down here vacationing, they can make a good bit of money out of them. And it's what enables a lot of them to actually buy these expensive waterfront homes. So they're having a tremendous impact on our economy here. So we have to be careful what we do. And I think we have to do it right. And I know all of you want to do it right. And my feeling is, to really do it right, we need to hire a full-time person to oversee this. The permitting, issuing permits, not issuing permits where they're not warranted, handling neighbor complaints or objections, allowing special events, investigating complaints. We could have a person who would take care of all this. And these people are getting tremendous rental incomes. So I think a CUP for 2 or 3 years, it costs them $1,000 or $2,000 would not be out of the question. And I would think could pay for somebody to oversee this whole thing for us. Take the whole load off the Board of Supervisors as far as hearings to determine whether or not the people should continue or start a certificate of occupancy.
That's not even feasible, is it?
It's not feasible?
No, I mean,
No, you're calling them conditional use permits, CUP. We call them special exceptions
Yeah.
in Lancaster. So, and it would just be a one-time approval by the Board of Supervisors. Now, the Board of Supervisors could revoke that special exception if there were 3 complaints or more. And the board has revoked special exceptions in the past. You have to go through the same process you did when you approved it, hold a public hearing, and then, vote to revoke it. But, I'm in the process of putting the county budget together, and there's already going to be probably 4 new positions presented in that budget. So I can't see us adding an additional position.
Okay, I ran the numbers on these short-term rentals in Lancaster County. I did both Airbnb, and there are 125 of them in our county. And VRBO, there are 110, for a total right now of 235. There may be other management organizations, I don't know. And not all of these are in the county. Some are in Irvington, I think about 32 are in Irvington. There are a few in Whitestone and Kilmarnock. But we have a hell of a lot of them. They're bringing in a lot of money. I mean, a lot of these places are charging $400 or $500 a night. In any event.
They're bringing in a lot of money, but it's also making it harder for people to find places to stay here.
Yes, I agree.
Steve, you ever been to Lumberlost? Remember Lumberlost? Those trailers? They're $1,400 a month now. It's not worth $5. I mean,
it's crazy.
Anyway,
So, in moving with this ordinance, do we want to go through it like you suggested with this letter Mr. Richardson supplied?
Yeah, I think, that's why he
While we got the commission together?
that's why he took the time to do it.
Yeah.
So I think we should.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, good wordsmithing that he provided that
Yeah.
I don't think is very, divisive or
No.
anything.
No, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
But, so let's go through there, but you've got an X on this one right here. What is that X for right there?
Well, he wanted to change date, the 180 days to 78 days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was just that's what we're talking about.
Where are we collectively with the numbers of days?
We just,
just grab it.
Yep.
That's why I got the problem with
yeah.
I just,
Well,
Is there any?
Other counties have grab days too, so I mean, we're in the same boat with them in that regard. But, we talked about 120. We talked about a different number for the hosted versus the unhosted. I remember Mrs. Booth brought up that point, and so we settled on 180, which is basically 6 months. But as you've heard Mr. Davenport say, that it's that's 6 months where the host is sitting idle. So, I mean,
I think the other things on page 1 in yellow are pretty, easy to say, just make those changes. And owner, change that to operator, but
yeah.
I'm just, when I went through it, that's what I thought.
No,
That's just me.
No.
Now, he made some good points, because, he's an attorney, so he's
Yeah, I
versed
thought
in that, so, yeah.
I thought it
that's-
was, so, moving right along to 29-3-3, Tom, well,
Yeah, if we can come back maybe to the 180 days
okay.
and revisit that.
The days, neither you can say, well, we're gonna do days, so we're not gonna do them.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're not gonna mess with the
Yeah,
days.
we
Yeah.
take out the
Just
last
not gonna mess
sentence.
with it.
I mean,
What
that's,
the times on the hosted properties?
Same thing, 180 days,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's somebody staying there. Yeah, but you got the owner there, so.
yeah.
I just,
right.
I mean, y'all can leave it like it is, I'll get this up there.
No, no, no. I just,
I don't see.
I mean, we get stuck on the days, I think, so, I don't know. Maybe we're not stuck. Maybe
look at that later.
majority-
I'm not stuck on a date. I would be glad to see these people be able to rent full-time and make all the money they can on it. The only question is how much neighborliness that takes away when you got a constant stream of people in and out.
And that's, I think that's a big thing for the opponents.
Yeah,
It was sort of a compromise.
yeah.
Okay.
But if we limit the number, only 2 rentals in a week, then the turn can only be twice a week.
And I mean, that's already in here.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we should get rid of the number of days.
Get rid of it? Get rid of it? Dave, what do you think?
I think it's gonna bring a lot more money into the county. It's, On the other hand, it's gonna make a lot of
What do you think?
our existing community mad.
I don't know.
What do you think? You've already said, you
My
said
gut feeling is that
if they're gonna do it, just let them do
Yeah,
it.
I mean, they're already doing it,
Well,
so
what do you
why
think?
stop it for 180 days?
Well, most of them aren't doing it for more than 180 days right now.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not
most I
because-
heard was 240 at that meeting.
Right.
That's the most.
Well, they're not doing it more than 180 days for the most part, like you said, because 180 days is basically May through October.
Right.
So, and, I mean, the one behind me, I don't see nobody there in November, December, and January.
Right.
Except the owners coming down.
Yeah,
So-
you're gonna have those times of the year anyway, so why put that?
Yeah, so if
That
you
high
leave,
number.
if you leave it wide open, you probably still ain't gonna do 180 days.
Right,
That's a good point.
right.
I thought that was interesting, the paper that we had in front of us. If anybody, I don't know if anybody had a chance to read it, but basically
did.
that's what she's saying, like, we put the limits on, so everybody's always gonna be coming in the summer, and we're still not gonna increase our population in the winter when we need it the most.
Right.
And it sounds like it's a very well-written letter by a lady who sounds like she's running a first-class outfit and doing everything right.
And it is true, there's ones that are, whatever, down at Windmill Point, there's no neighbors, close by, that nobody
Yeah.
cares if they rent it every day. But then there's others that are on top of each other, where when they apply for the conditional use permit, they can speak up at the board of supervisors.
Good point.
Yeah, but how do we get the numbers right? Because, Don, you said it was how many registered, like, what, 63?
How many what?
Places registered, like 63?
So the numbers that Mr. Chubb was speaking of, I think the same home can be on multiple platforms. There are not 235 short-term rentals in Lancaster County.
From what you said.
There are not.
Yeah, but I think what he's asking is how many are on our registry right now?
So that hasn't been updated. As of last year, 61.
So it's nowhere near,
No, so
No.
we do have some that are operating that are not registered, yes, sir. Absolutely.
When it takes effect next year, right? We'll know, because we gotta get a report from.
Well, that law changed October 1st, and the Commissioner of Revenue is getting a more detailed report now from all of the platforms except for Airbnb and VRBO, which are fighting with the Attorney General's
They're the
office.
two biggest ones.
The
They
state,
are.
exactly.
They are.
So, but Bill has got the information, and he can share that now.
So what we did find with Airbnb, I apologize, I cannot remember her name, but she gave us basically a template letter to file. And Airbnb is kind of fighting every locality that you have to do that first, which we did. Ms. Savoy and I, we submitted that. We haven't heard anything back from Airbnb, but the goal with that is monthly, what we would see. This is HomeAway.com, who have been great with the county, where we actually see the property. It really doesn't affect me on what I do, what they pay monthly, but I'm able to locate the property and make sure they're registered.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big help when Airbnb and VRBO have to supply that to the counties.
Are they gonna have to supply the taxes also?
Yeah.
That's on her end, but yes. I don't follow that.
Yeah, see, Director of Planning and Land Use takes care of the registry. Commissioner of Revenue takes care of the transient occupancy tax. So,
But that's coming straight from the platforms.
coming straight from the platforms, and up until October 1st, all we were getting was, like, from HomeAway is one lump sum check.
That's right.
And it didn't give us any addresses, or, this is coming from 15 rentals or nothing. We just got one lump sum check. But after October 1st, then we're starting to get this detailed list, which, is going to enable Bill to go back and, cross-reference with our registry to see who's not registered, and then send them a nice letter that says, by the way, you have to register annually, and if you don't, it's a $500 penalty.
Is VRBO sending?
VRBO and Airbnb are not sending this currently. They
No,
are,
I know, but are they sending the money?
they are sending the money, yes.
Okay.
But it's one lump sum, and we have no idea where, how many rentals it's coming from, or, no specifics.
Interesting.
And they're fighting, and I mean, Virginia changed its law, and they're fighting it, and other counties have joined together and sent this exact same letter to the platforms, but, and the Attorney General's office is involved with this now, so they're working on that.
So, Glenn, what are your thoughts? You want to limit it to days or not?
My thought was 240 days.
I kind of think that that's not a bad idea. I mean, that's just me personally too, but if you guys want to, I mean,
240, is that a bad idea? Which is the high?
yeah. I mean, you're still getting over 6 months worth of rental, which seems like it's kind of just a, people aren't going to rent.
There were some people here,
Yeah,
last
it's
month
a
or whenever it
off-season
was,
anyways.
that were not satisfied with putting, a number of days on this. But there were some people that said something about 240, and that kind of like registered, so, we had 180. I wouldn't, for myself, go less than 180, and I thought of 240, so that's where I'm at.
Well, it's a limit, and I don't think anybody that owns one could really complain too much about that.
That
Given
seemed,
the
that seemed to be the
seasonal
biggest complaint from those who supported it last month, was the number of days.
I can live with 240.
And it wasn't like you were getting a lot of complaints, that people were complaining. It was, I think you said maybe one or two people. And it was more or less, what seems to me is, people that were here, and we don't want this stuff. Excuse me.
So you saying they can rent for 240 days, which is
No more than that.
no more than that?
Which, again, to try to find some middle ground for both sides of the fence, there is something in there that says that, but also what I'm hearing is it's a seasonal nature anyway, that's 8 months. And it's really only like a 6-month type of industry anyway, plus or minus. Given that it's 70 degrees in February though, who the hell knows?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it might be a year time thing. So, but if the board wants us to put in a number or not put in a number, I'd feel more comfortable putting in a number, let y'all try to hash it out.
Well, let's put 240 and move on.
Agreed.
240, can you live with that?
Sounds good to me.
I can live with it.
Okay, perfect. Next, go Glenn Cohen. All right. I see you struck the boat. Why is everybody against the boat?
Well,
Obviously, the attorney was well
what page are
rounded.
you on now? You jumped ahead.
Where are you?
So there was a question I had in 29-3-8. When it's respond to any law enforcement or government official within 60 minutes or 30 minutes. I guess my question, reading that, is what does respond mean? In person or by the phone?
Well, it doesn't say in person,
It
it's
doesn't.
just.
I think it could be either.
It could be either. And Mr. Allen's suggestion was to go by the definition
Yeah.
of the short-term rental operator. I mean, I just pulled language from other ordinances, his or her employee or an authorized independent contractor. So, but I mean,
Yeah,
I
but do
don't-
you really need somebody to show up in person? You just need to be able to get them on the phone.
Right.
Right?
yeah. That's why it doesn't
I
say in
think-
person.
Yeah, I think
Do we want to clarify that?
in my mind, it was like in person, because
Okay.
it limits somebody from Charlottesville driving down here in an hour. Like, we wanted them to live here closer, but
Yeah,
what are they gonna accomplish here in
Yeah.
person that they can't accomplish on the phone,
Right.
really?
yeah.
Who cares? As long as they take care of their problem.
Yep,
Right.
okay, good question.
So,
We can clarify that.
but they should be able to, somebody, the law enforcement or,
Yeah,
should be able to get with them within 30 minutes.
Oh,
on the
yeah.
phone,
yeah,
which should be instantaneous. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. Should be much less than that.
Yeah, agreed.
And I guess if they can, if they just ignore the call, that's a strike against them? Is that,
Yeah, I would think so. So am I hearing
Well,
the
at that time,
consensus?
they've broken their agreement
Yeah,
for the conditional use permit.
well, yeah,
That'd be, like you said, that'd be a strike, because
Yeah.
this is part of the agreement, that
Yeah.
they're agreeing.
so they gotta reply within 30 minutes by phone.
all right, so we'll make that more specific, not in person, but we'll put some language in there so that it doesn't imply in person. It'll be, yeah.
The next page, I think they were all good, just, highlighted stuff.
Let's go back to 29-4-1, bottom of page 2. Mr. Allen had put in there, he added the one child. And, I mean, when I drafted this, I said excluding their minor children, because what if you have more than one child?
Yeah, I saw that too, I agree.
Yeah.
It's 2 adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I drafted it that way.
Okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you turn to the next page, page 3, this is just a Crystal thing, on 2963. We need to change patties to parties.
Yeah. I can't believe.
None of
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was when he converted the PDF to a Word document so he could make his corrections, that did that, because my draft doesn't say Patty.
Mine doesn't either.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're going
Yeah.
over this.
Yeah, I'm just looking, okay, so
Yeah.
this is his piece.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, sorry, Crystal, I should have known better.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to add to it? Like I said, I think it's pretty
think
well written.
Just on the last page, because it was last month, lady was complaining about the fires kept getting started in her yard.
Exactly what I was gonna bring up.
That should be an automatic violation. Then last month, the lady, every time somebody came, they left the fire pit unattended, and the fire ended starting in her yard.
Well, I think that happened to be the actual owners and not,
Yeah.
Yeah, that,
Well, you all had previously decided to take out the language that restricted the wood-burning fire pits.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
So
I
you
mean.
said no, they can't have fire pits at all?
No, they can have fire pits, because you all took, and I don't know, maybe you missed that meeting, I can't remember. But the consensus was, because it was in there originally, the consensus was to remove that. So wood-burning fire pits would be allowed under the current draft. See, Mr. Allen just added that because, well, that's near and dear to his heart, because he's a resident down at High Banks, and that's where the problem occurred.
that's why it kind of struck it back out. But on 29-6-8 that he added, no
Yeah.
open invite parties, I don't think we had that, did we?
We don't have it in that language, no. We just, under 29-6-3, we say no disruptive parties or events.
I think that's a good thing. I mean, open invite party is very specific, like, hey, I'm renting this place, anybody come on.
And it's
Yeah,
on
we-
Facebook all the time.
Yeah, we don't want that.
I
And
agree,
they-
Okay.
I like that too.
That's the sign of the times. You had the teenagers would come out in droves. My
Yeah.
kids
So-
especially.
I'm seeing 3 people shake their head for that one. Is there a 4th?
Yes.
No open invite parties.
Yeah, all right, so we'll add that.
But then the wood burning, I don't. Coming to the country, I'm gonna, if there's a fire,
I
pit,
mean,
I'm gonna.
kids want to do
make a fire.
s'mores if you're in the country.
I'm okay with fire pits.
Yeah, I mean, you all had previously said to, strike that, take it out, so that's what we did.
I think above that, like 2965, he got very specific on quiet hours, which I thought was good.
Are those the county hours?
They are.
Okay.
They're from our noise ordinance.
Well, I can see the loud talking and the singing, and the, music, but it's gonna be hard to stop a dog from barking.
But if somebody brings a dog and it's going outside, just barking for an hour or two, they can take the dog inside. I think that's a strike, if they can't control the pet. But it's gonna be hard to regulate any of this.
Yeah.
Amen. Staff okay with all of this?
Yeah, I mean, so, other than what we
Yeah, I
have
got a
specifically talked about, I think the highlighted in yellow language, unless we've specifically said take it out, we can add. And I think I also want to put in that paragraph about, providing confirmation that it complies with HOA covenants and deed restrictions. One thing that was brought up last month, and Mr. Allen brought it up, about an insurance rider for large gatherings. And, I don't know a lot about that. We do have provisions in the ordinance for the board to consider, to grant access for larger gatherings, but maybe we make that a condition of the special exception and, instead of putting it specifically in the ordinance. Just a thought.
Yeah, 'cause I don't know what the definition of large is, because we've got a limit on what they can gather right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're limiting no more than 10 overnight guests and no more than 20 people on site at any time. But you can, the board can approve more during the special exception process. That's for the unhosted.
So do we want to classify large as anything above 20?
Anything would be above 20. So like a, family reunion or a wedding, something like that. I mean, when they come to the Board of Supervisors for the special exception, that would be one of the things that they would ask for. This is a nice place, we intend to rent it out for weddings and whatnot. And
Seems fair.
I think.
Hey, I have a suggestion on 29.2, under short-term rental hosted. Talk about a situation there where the host can allow tenants in one structure. In actuality, there's a fair number of situations, I think, where these big homes on the water have an adjacent guest house. And they will put, if they have a big family coming to stay for a few days, they'll put some in the main house and a couple in the guest house. I personally have an apartment over my garage, which I could rent out as an Airbnb. I never have, while I'm staying in the house. So I would not be in the same structure as my tenant. I think we should allow for these situations. Otherwise, you're making these guest homes on the big estates or on the big homes unusable as a place to put people. I don't see any reason to do that.
So you go to, fast forward to 29-3-3 where we just were, Dave?
Where it says an owner occupied dwelling.
No. I said, just move forward to 29-3-3, please. And it's addressed again where the ordinance just doesn't want, it talks about no more than 2 rental contracts during any consecutive 7-day period and shall be limited to operating in one
Yes.
designated structure.
That needs to be changed too.
I disagree.
I've suggested changing that and adding the phrase, unless they are authorized by the Board of Supervisors to utilize more than one structure.
I think we did that to limit the amount of people coming and going, because if we don't, then you've got 2 structures with 2 separate amounts of people coming and going if they're allowed to do so.
But typically, it's one family, and what's the difference?
Well, then it goes back to, well, let's just back up an RV, we'll have 3 structures. There'll be no end to it. Y'all already won't give me the boat.
I think the boat was struck.
It was struck.
So
But-
what about situations like I have, where
You
I
want
have
a guest house, you're talking about a guest house? in
Well,
the
then-
main house?
I have
Yeah.
a guest apartment over my garage.
Right,
Has a full kitchen,
and that would be,
living room.
and that would be,
That would be a hosted.
You're a hosted
Yeah,
Yeah.
operator.
right.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, you're not in the
But-
same dwelling,
Yeah.
but you're on the same property. We
But
would,
you're only designating that
But I
guest
don't
house
think
That's
this
right.
allows that,
That's
because it says,
Right? Am I missing something?
owner occupies the dwelling on the property.
It says owner or designee must stay overnight at the dwelling during all rental periods. How about instead of saying at the dwelling, why don't we say on the premises?
Yes.
That's fine.
Fair enough, I like that, yeah. I see what you're saying. Good point.
What else did you have, Dave?
That's it.
Anything you think the board's gonna see, Mr. Lee, that we need to look at?
All of it.
I hope so, I think it looks pretty good, man.
I think so.
So we'll do a hearing next month?
No, I would suggest, let's make these changes and bring you back a draft to look at again. And then, you're gonna have your public hearing for the capital improvement budget next month. Do you have any, other requests? And,
What about this comprehensive plan? Do we have to do this tonight, or can we push it till next month?
You can push that off. If you'll remember back in, I think it was 2018, when this process started, you all pushed off the introduction in Chapter 1 because you wanted, that's kind of general language, and you wanted to see what kind of changes you made in the specific chapters of whether or not you needed to change that general language in Chapter 1. So you put it off to the tail end. So this will clean it up at some point. And I mean, this has gone on.
Maybe we should wait and do it till next month.
Yeah, I mean, pushing it off another month is not going to hurt.
Is there any heartburn about pushing it off, guys?
I think Mr. Farrell has something to say.
Yes, sir.
Chair, Mr. Chair, I would just wanted to, if you don't mind, I want you to, let me run through it so you know what you're looking at. If you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all.
I'll be real quick. We did change the front page. We changed the logo. Instead of a little small one, nothing against county administrator's logo. We just updated it a little bit. What you'll find is updated everyone's name. Pretty simple. I went back to the old minutes from 2018. That's what the yellow changes show. The page 1-5 in chapter 1. What you see struck, it's just me, I'm sorry. If you guys don't like it, I could take it out. We got into the statistics in each chapter, so it was kind of redundant for me to have it here and in the chapters. So I kind of wanted to go a different direction. What you'll see in blue, I wanted to talk about what the county has done in the last 5 years.
That's a great idea.
And just, I can add anything, take it out if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I just, went shot in the dark there.
No,
That's all I got.
I read it, I like that. And striking all that stuff, like you say, it's spoken to as far as census data. and
Yes, sir.
Individual chapter, I agree. All right,
So we'll
Anything-
bring that back next month.
if that's okay with you guys. Anything else we need to look for? You already mentioned kind of what we're looking for next month.
No, I don't
No,
have anything.
you'll have public hearing for the capital improvement budget next month. We'll bring back a clean draft, a revised draft
We'll
of
have
the,
the interim, the vote for the placement for the capital improvement.
yeah, I'll
budget
get
items.
get that out to y'all next week by email, and you can get that back to me, and, yeah, and we'll come back with a clean draft of Article 29 to see if you want to make any last-minute changes before going back to public hearing, probably in April.
Okay, thanks for all the work y'all done on that. And thanks, Tom, for the work you did on that. Lynn, out of curiosity, do we have anybody online tonight? All right, well, thank you guys for all your input. Thank you. Great meeting. It's adjourned.
Adjourned, all right.